Hey class, so this video is going to be about your final exam study guide. It's for Unit 3. We're going to do a unit per day throughout the week so that you are ready to study, ready for your final exam next week. Also, please remember you have your performance final this week as well, and that's going to be on E-class. Okay, so what I did for this video is I put it on YouTube. And in the description below, you should see times that if you click on those times, it'll take you directly to the questions that you need help with. That way, you're not sitting here watching a 10, 15, 20 minute long video. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. Number 1, table defines a quadratic function. Okay, so we know it's quadratic. We want to know the average rate of change. Okay, oops. Between -1 and +1. Well, right there, already you have your x1 and you have your x2. Okay, so now I know I'm going to use my formula y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So x2 is +1, x1 is -1. Okay, don't forget the minus and the negative. So then now I have to look somewhere here on this chart. Okay, find -1 for x, find +1 for x, and then tell me what those y values are. Okay, so you are going to look here and here. Okay, then you decide which one's y2, which one's y1. Okay, and remember, your decision is based off of what these are. Okay, so then you plug them in here, whatever y2 is, y1, and then you get your answer. 1 minus -1, that turns +1, so it's 1 plus 1, which is 2. Okay, so then figure out what goes on top, simplify your answer, and that's your slope. Okay, well, average rate of change, same thing. All right, moving on to question number 2. Okay, so I'm going to leave, well, these are shortened questions, so I'll just leave these here for now. Okay, the function f of x equals x minus 9 is shifted 2 units up and 3 units to the left. Select a new function. So I put Desmos here. Everything you see in writing, in my handwriting, are hints. So it says to use Desmos, but here you have your function. X minus h, okay, this minus h is your horizontal shift, plus k is your vertical shift. Horizontal means we go left and right, vertical means we go up and down. So I want 2 units up, but here's the thing. It already has a -9. Okay, well, I'm going to go up 2, so that's plus 2. This can be, whoops. This can be simplified. Okay, so then we have to decide what that is. I'm going to tell you right now, the answer is not A. Okay, it's not A. Now 3 units to the left. Okay, if I'm going to go left, it's going to be x plus something. Okay, x plus something. Now that's all I'm going to say, because anything else I'm going to pretty much give away the entire question. Okay, so kind of from there decide. Now, you can use Desmos by typing in your equation. Here I have it in red. And then type each of the answer choices. Okay, so I'm going to say A, since I already crossed it out. 2x minus 6. Okay, well that doesn't look like it's shifted up and left. Remember, shifting means it doesn't change shape or direction. It's just the same exact thing, but notice the slope here is different. Okay, so that definitely means A is not correct. Okay, so you can use that method as well. Okay, number 3. What are the solutions to the equation x squared minus 5x equals 14? Here's your equation, and remember, in order to solve a quadratic, it has to equal 0. Right now it equals 14. So we can use Desmos, but we want to go ahead and solve that first. So I'll subtract 14 on both sides. Nothing can be combined, so it's x squared minus 5x minus 14 equals 0. Oops. So we now go back to Desmos, and we're going to type in that equation, x squared minus 5x minus 14. Okay, whoops, that's 15. There we go, 14. So it wants to know where the solutions are, and on Desmos, if you click on where they intersect or where these points are, it gives you the actual points. My solution are my x-intercepts. So -2 and 7 are the correct answer, so therefore it has to be C. Okay, I'm just going to give you that one since I showed you how to do it completely. Okay? Alright, number 4, transformations. This is the one that we struggled with a lot during the semester. So, let's see. Okay, so we can use Desmos if you want, but it's kind of hard to see with the way quadratics behave. So, instead, we're going to use what I wrote over here on the right side. We have a negative. We have this a. X squared is the parent function, so that does nothing. It just tells you it's a quadratic. The negative in the front is a reflection, but more specifically, it's a vertical reflection. Okay, vertical reflection means it goes up and down, so it has to go over a certain axis. A is a vertical stretch or a shrink. If a is bigger than 1, meaning it's a whole number, it's a stretch. If a is a fraction between 0 and 1, that means the denominator is bigger than the numerator, it's a shrink. Okay, so if I look at my question here, -3x to the second power, well, let's see. Here's one transformation. Here's another transformation. Based on what I wrote here, go ahead and see if you can figure out what the actual, whoops, wrong color, what the actual answer is in the answer choices below. Okay, so let's see, just to see and give you a little hint, the number is a 3. It's a whole number. It's bigger than 1, so it's not a shrink. So it's definitely not C. Okay, so then now decide which one your answer can it possibly be. Okay, choose all of your transformations. Okay, don't leave one out. Make sure you choose all of the transformations. All right, so that's number 4. We're going to move on to number 5. Okay, what is the end behavior of the graph of f of x, and then we have our function here. Now, we can use Desmos. Yeah, that's probably the fastest way. Okay, but I'm going to show you both ways. So Desmos, we can graph the calculator and see what it looks like. But I know with this negative and from the question beforehand that it opens the negative in the front makes the parabola open down. And behavior just wants to know what's happening here at the ends. Whoops. Okay, what's happening here at the ends? Okay, don't forget, you have your x and y axis. Ooh, that's horrible. These are both pointing down. Okay, so what does that mean? Right? Down means negative infinity, and up is positive infinity. Okay, so which one of these answers can it possibly be? Okay, so I'm not going to give you any or eliminate any answer choices because it's pretty obvious, but you have to look here. These are your answer choices. Okay, everything at the beginning is the same. It'll always say as x increases, as x decreases. So you have to pretty much compare those 4 choices. Okay. All right, number 6. Okay, number 6, what are the solutions? This is the same as an earlier question, but it already makes it equal 0. So go ahead and type this in to Desmos. Again, I'm just going to show you what that looks like. So let's see, that said 2x squared minus 2x minus 12. Let's make sure I type that in correctly. Yes, it is. All right, you have your 2 points here and here. Okay. Figure out what the answer is from there. All right, number 7. What is the vertex of the graph f of x equals x squared plus 10x minus 9? All right, so we're going to go to Desmos again. If you want to do it by hand, your vertex is a few steps. First, find the axis of symmetry, negative b over 2a. A here is 1, because there's a 1 in front. B is 10, C is negative 9. Then whatever you get, you plug that back into your answer. F of blank equals blank, or sorry, let's use parentheses. Parentheses squared plus 10, and then parentheses minus 9. Whatever you get here goes here, here, and here. Okay, that's the doing it by hand way. Let's do Desmos. Now, as I'm doing this, remember, you get to use Desmos on your final exam. Okay, so please make sure you practice this so you are used to it. Plus 10x minus 9. Yep. Okay, now remember, our vertex is where it changes direction. Where my parabola changes direction from left to right. It's decreasing, decreasing and then increasing. Okay, so on Desmos, on your phone or device, you touch the graph, you see it gives you a point at the vertex, and that's going to be your answer. Okay? All right. Number 8. Use this graph to answer the question. Okay, so you're going to have to use Desmos again, but before we dive into Desmos, we're going to find some key points here. All right? We want to have the solutions. Okay, so we know that this is 5, 0, and this is negative 2, 0. We want to know the vertex. So the vertex is somewhere here. Now, that's not a perfect point. Okay, it's not whole numbers, so I'm going to leave those out. But I do have another number here that I can use. And that's this point right here. That's my y-intercept. Okay, that's my y-intercept. And that y-intercept right now, that point is 0, 10. So I want to find a graph that has x-intercepts, negative 2, 0, 5, 0, and a y-intercept of 0, 10. Oh, I'm sorry, that's negative 10. Whoops. Okay, so all you have to do now is go to Desmos, graph each of those 4 equations, okay, and then figure out what your answer is going to be. All right, so I'm going to do one for you, and that's going to be that last one, minus 5x minus 8. Okay, so let's go back to my home screen. Here we go. So there's my x-intercepts, y-intercept, and vertex. Well, we know a vertex is a decimal, so we've said we're going to ignore that. But we have a y-intercept and our solutions, and these do not match what we wrote down earlier on paper, right? So I know D is not the correct answer. Okay? All right. Number 9. Find the average rate of change over the interval negative 2 to 0. Okay, so this is just like that very first question we did. x1, x2. Again, that's a typo. That should say x. All right, so you have your x's. Now you find your y. I highlighted that for you so you can easily figure that out. 0 minus negative 2. And you have 2 blanks here. y2, y1. 0 minus negative 2 is positive 2 because that's 0 plus 2. Okay, and then figure out what your rate of change is going to be. All right. Going down to number 10. Flying disc is thrown into the air from a height of 25 feet at time equals 0. The function that models the situation, here's the function, where t is measured in seconds and h is the height in feet. What value of t best describes the times when the disc is flying in the air? Now, t is time. Now think about that in realistic terms. Okay, that's also your domain, our x-axis. Think about what two answers can it possibly not be. Okay, one definitely for sure. And that's going to be C, all real numbers. When you say all real numbers, that's positive numbers and negative numbers, but we've talked about this a lot in class. You cannot have a negative time. We're not going backwards in time. So C is automatically incorrect. So now what you can do is just graph that on Desmos. So let's see. Negative 16 t squared. Let's see if this t is going to work. Maybe not. Let's use x. There we go. Let's use x. Plus 75t, or x. Whoops. Plus 25. Okay, so here's our graph. It started somewhere at 0, but all I care about is my other x-intercept. Okay, where t is measured in seconds and h is the height in feet. So this 5 is a t. So what does that mean in this question? Okay, so then now that we've talked about that, the other possible answer that is incorrect is E. Because if you say all positive integers, anything after this 5 means that you're underground, right? And that's not possible. We're not digging a hole. It's landing somewhere. Okay, so what does that mean for number 10? All right, number 11, and then 12 is the last one. Which function has a range of f of x is less than or equal to 3 over 4? So I want a graph where the y-axis, the y values, stop at 3 over 4. Okay, that's the highest point, right? So range is low to high, the lowest point to the highest point. So you want to graph all the functions. I'm going to tell you right now, it's not linear. Okay, so A is incorrect, D is incorrect because they're both linear functions. They're just straight lines that never end. Right, so you're only left with B and C, and I'm going to let you graph that on Desmos to figure that out. If you can do it without Desmos, even better. All right, number 12, last question. It's very similar to number 10. Graph shows the height, y in meters, of a rocket above sea level in terms of time t in seconds since it was launched. Rocket landed at sea level. Okay, so that means the rocket landed here. That means this is sea level, right? Because y is the height. Okay? What does the x-intercept represent in this situation? All right, well, we just talked about it. X-axis or x-intercept is right here. What does that mean? A, the height, B, the time, C, the total distance, or D, the time it took the rocket to reach the highest point. Okay, and I'm going to let you decide that on your own. Okay, it's not C. I'll tell you that. It's definitely not C. We don't care about total distance. We only want to know about height and time. All right, so now that you reach the end of this video, if you watch it from beginning to end, that's a very good job. Okay, but if you watch clips, that's good too. Just a reminder that your performance final is this week. It's on e-class. There are 3 questions, multiple parts, but you only have to pick one question and do all of those parts. So for example, you can do 1A, but you have to do B, C, and D if there is. Then 2A, 2B, 2C, 2D, so on and so forth, but you only have to pick one of those 3 questions. We're going to have a Zoom session later today. Link is on e-class, time is on e-class. If you're watching this after our Zoom session, please make sure to join us tomorrow on Tuesday at 1:45. Okay, we're going to go over your performance final and I'm going to help you out with that. All right, if you need anything, you know where you can reach me. Cell phone, Google Voice, Remind, email. Okay, there's so many ways that you can contact me. Let me know if you need help.